Hello, hello, mama friends. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Mama Work It podcast. I'm so glad you're here. If you are new in town, my name is Marissa Lonick. I'm your host and the founder of Mama Work It, where we support women in the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So I'm so excited you're here, and I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest today, Brooke Happe. Yes, what an incredible name she has. Brooke went from being a full-time practicing doctorate of physical therapy to mother to accidental entrepreneur of a successful beanie business. She now travels full-time with her husband and three kids, running a global empire and having a blast visiting nearly 30 states to date along the way. Her mission through her lifestyle brand and dare I even say overall lifestyle is to encourage you to do whatever makes you happy. So I cannot wait to dive into our topic today with you, Brooke, because you are definitely the pro when it comes to traveling with kids, having logged over 40,000 miles to date. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, let's get started. Just tell us a little bit more about your story, how you accidentally started this amazing business and brand.
Yes, so I graduated with my doctorate in physical therapy back in 2010, was working, kind of making my way up to the ultimate position where I got to be a rehab director in a skilled facility. And I was expecting my daughter at the time in 2015, and my heart was just, I had two boys, was expecting our third, our last child, and I was just really struggling with that, being a medical professional, and then also being that mom. And so I knew that I could always get back to working and continuing to practice, but I knew that I would never get that time back with my kids and those childhood, moments. And so I decided to step away from my career. And so then that was in 2015. I did a lot of manual therapy as a physical therapist. And so I had these built up my hands to be very, very strong. And I was like, well, if I'm going to go back to that, I don't want to lose everything that I gained. And being a lifelong learner, I decided to pick up a crochet hook and buy some yarn and taught myself to crochet through the internet, through YouTube and Pinterest, and just made like was making little beanies and donating them to the hospital for the NICU. And so I was just kind of honing my craft and really struggling with the transition of getting ready every day, having a pretty strict schedule as a medical professional, to being at home with three kids under the age of four. And so I crocheted a slouch hat just to kind of hide my dirty mom hair, try to feel a little bit more put together. And other moms started asking about, like, where did you get that beanie? I love that it's, multiple seasons. You can kind of wear it whenever or with whatever. And they encouraged me to start Be Happy, a little brand. And so that was back in 2016. Um, and so we would do a buy one, give one. And every hat that I made or sold, I would give back to the Children's Hospital where we lived in central Iowa. And in 2018, fortunately, we were growing to the point where I couldn't make one for every one that I sold to donate. And so I was really searching for an answer. And unfortunately, our middle son was admitted to the PICU for 10 days with an illness that kind of went straight to his lungs. And so he was in isolation. And that's a long time with, with a almost 4 year old in a hospital room. And so we became very good friends with the child life specialists there at the hospital. And they were talking about how they essentially rely on donations for these toys to keep the kids busy, and occupied, and try to keep their life as normal as possible when they're going through these medical episodes. And so it was kind of it was one of the scariest moments of my life as a mother, but yet it was just almost like this realization that we were meant to be in this position. And so we decided to start donating a portion of our proceeds from the beanie sales to donate wish list items to the child life services at hospitals. So that was kind of how the brand started. And that episode really made us look at what we were doing with our life as parents. We had all these goals that we were trying to reach, and we felt like we were missing everything in between. So we were weekend warriors camping, and I said to my husband, what if we just sold everything to travel? Let's make the most out of these moments. I can run the brand from the RV, and he just needed to be near an airport so we could kind of schedule our travels so that he could fly out and go to business and then come back. And we just decided life's too short to not listen to our heart and follow our gut. So in June of 2019, we sold everything, sold our dream home in Iowa to travel, and almost 5 years later, here we are.
Wow. Okay. So many. That's amazing, first of all. So many questions. Okay, so your husband actually kept his job while traveling, as because it sounds like he was working remotely, but then was traveling for work. So as long as you were near an airport, that worked for him.
Correct. Yeah, he had always worked remotely in business, going to see customers or clients, and so he was traveling about 2 to 3 weeks out of the month away from home, and so this would kind of also give us an opportunity to be together, a little bit more, and kind of follow him in the different areas if he was doing it, in a specific geographical location. So for us, nothing changed other than our home, surroundings and where we were.
And how old were the kids when this decision was made?
3, 5, and 7.
Okay, so probably one, maybe two in school. Did you start homeschooling at that point?
Yes, so our oldest had just finished second grade, and then our middle kiddo, he had just finished preschool, and then our daughter was in like, a little 3-year-old preschool. So our oldest was the only one that had actually, I mean, preschool is just pretty much like play. So had a structured school schedule. So we kicked off with third grade in kindergarten, and then our daughter just kind of followed along for a little bit.
Okay. So how was that transition for you to become now a homeschool teacher in addition to a business owner and being on the road?
It took a little bit of time to figure out like what would work for us. Um, but when we were started this journey, or to sell everything, we essentially just told us like, remember our why. Our why is to focus on this time together to simplify life, kind of regroup and say, what do we, want from this journey of parenthood? And then, later on, what do we want for our family? And so no matter the good days or the bad days, we just kind of really always remember like we are spending as much time together as possible. We are making the most out of this season. So it took some time. Like I said, we figured out a schedule and a routine that worked for us, but um, it was the best decision we could have made in hindsight. Also now because the pandemic had not happened yet,
Right.
so so people kind of thought we were a bit crazy, or like questioned what we were doing. But, we just had to follow our heart and our gut. And obviously it turned out for the best.
Yeah. And was that challenging during the pandemic season?
Honestly, it was not, simply because we had like our home and everything. I would say the only thing that really changed was, maybe we weren't going into indoor museums or science centers and things like that. So we do a lot of road schooling where we, learn as much as we can about the areas that we travel to. And so that changed with regards to we couldn't go to indoor places, but our travels honestly weren't affected much because we always used the restroom in our RV when we were making stops along the way. So we really didn't miss a beat.
Yeah. All right. Oh, that's so amazing. And I love to hear that. And it's still your lifestyle. Like you're maintaining it now 5 years later. This
Hmm.
is what it is. Yeah. Yeah. So, personally, in our family, we do a lot of road trips. Like, I feel like they can be easier. We've got 4 kids here, and it's just like you're on your own schedule and things like that. We don't have an RV like you do, but I am curious for our listeners, for me too, what are tips that you have for families taking road trips? Because you're on the road a lot. So, I'm sure you have some really good advice with this.
Yeah, we are. It's very important for us to be like open with our children on, expectations and kind of what's happening. I think in general, even as adults, we don't like anything that comes up unexpectedly, right? Like we always kind of want to have a plan or have an idea of what's going to happen. So we always, talk to the kids. We're going to go roughly this many miles. We're going to stop and use the restroom, you know, things like that. Obviously, things always happen, even if it's one unexpected restroom break or a flat tire or something. But yeah, we just are really open with what the day is going to look like. We we don't do electronics, so we do a lot of like games and we have like little questions that the kids always ask, you know, ask each other or what we ask ourselves, just simple things like if you could have any meal right now, you know, what would that be? A lot of looking outside. I will talk about or we'll kind of learn about the things in it as we pass a sign, you know, that might be something peculiar or interesting, and I'll kind of Google it and we'll talk about you know, the area that we're traveling through. So I think just lowering your expectations to start with, um, and then keeping an open communication with your children or your family on how the day is hopefully going to go.
Yeah, that's great advice. I'm curious, you have two boys and a girl, right? And they're, how
Mhm.
old are they now?
12, 10, and 8.
Okay. Yeah. So when we do road trips, we always have to take into consideration like the energy levels of our kids and how they need to get out of the car and run around. Do you also
Mhm.
schedule sort of little stops for just some energy breaks in that way?
Yeah, anytime that we you know kind of stop to either get gas or to use the restroom, we always just kind of have little races or you know play tag at the rest stop or something like that. So that is kind of something that we do you know focus on. It's a little bit easier now that they're a little bit older compared to 3, 5, and 7.
Hmm.
But yeah, we do get out and kind of do stretching and just a little bit of movement to you know get rid of some of that energy. But we do kind of plan our days to where we're up early typically, get the drive out of the way so that we have the afternoon to either go explore or go to a park or get rid of the energy that has kind of built up throughout our travel.
Yeah. And would you say that you and your husband share the driving responsibilities, or does it more heavily weigh on one of you than the other?
We can do both simply because my husband travels, and so if I needed to like move the rig or go for some reason, I can do, you know, set up everything. I can drive, but he does most of it just because that's what he prefers.
Gotcha.
But I can certainly, you know, do it, or if he has like a work call or something, then I can drive.
Got it. Cool. So, what about your own self care? You guys are in really close quarters. Like, what does that look like when you're traveling full time with kids?
Yeah, we have a pretty and I wouldn't say rigid, but we have a structured schedule. And so, like we kind of talked about, like we know that the kids have expectations. They know that mom needs to work, or for me, my self-care, my energy release is working out, whether that's just walking or weights or something along those lines. So, some of the places that we stay do have like a gym, and so if my husband is home, I will go by myself. If not, my kiddos will sit and read or play game or play cards while I, you know, work out. And like I said, we just have this discussion like mommy needs to take care of herself and be as healthy as possible to take care of you. So we're going to take 30 minutes. We're going to go to the gym. You know, sometimes it looks like just a bike ride. I just riding our bikes around, or I just got rollerblades because the kids love to rollerblade. And I was like, I did that when I was younger. Why can't I still do it now? You know, so kind of just leaning into both individual time, but also, you know, incorporating a little bit of family outdoor activities too.
Yeah, absolutely. God, I have not been on rollerblades in a really long time. I mean, I'm sure, is it one of those things like riding a bike? You just pick it right back up?
Hmm. It was, yeah. My daughter was like, "How do you know how to do this?" I'm like, "Oh, honey, I like
You don't even
spent a
know.
long time, right?"
The
And
90s and
yeah,
rollerblades were lit.
exactly.
Yes. All right. Well, let's see. Have you gone global yet with the kids?
We have taken one international trip. It was actually a vacation, which I know kind of sounds silly, the fact that we travel full time, but we did go to like an all-inclusive resort actually this past fall. So it had been almost 8 years since we had taken a family vacation. Granted, 5 of those years, we travel full time, but yeah, we did. We went international to just a resort, didn't explore or do anything, and it was a great vacation, simply because our life revolves around, always doing adventures and things like that. So it was great, and the kids did great. I think part of it is what we were talking about with the expectations and the open communication. This is what's going to happen, even at customs, like you can't pet the dogs. These type of things, trying to prepare yourself for what are some things that we might have to encounter along the way, and explain to them as much as possible in advance.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's always a good idea. And I think we forget that kids can really take that information in. Sometimes parents are like, well, it's too much, or they might not understand, but you started doing this very early on. I mean, 3, 5, and 7, and
Mhm.
explaining these expectations, and it's working for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, like I said, the expectations, but also a lot of times I like to think about, the new experiences and how can I get either upset or maybe correct my child on, no, that's not how you do it when I haven't taught them. I think a lot of times when we get upset as maybe parents or maybe, feel like, oh, or my child should be able to do that or know how to do that, is have we taught them? How do,
Hmm.
do they know what's going to happen when they go through customs, or do they know that, when you're going into the public restroom, like, I don't know, like just different things, like set we can't set these expectations if they don't know what they're supposed to do. And so that's what we really just try to do on the road, and I think it kind of helps prepare them for hopefully being well-rounded adults later on in life.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what has been your favorite state or place to visit as a family?
We all have different responses to that if you asked each one of us. I love the Southwest. There's something about being like paddleboarding on a lake with cactus and palm trees and the mountains in the background, that just like fills my soul, all of those different landscapes together. So I would say Arizona if I had to like put it in there, but we love Utah. Um, my kids would say New Mexico. White Sand National Park is this gypsum sand of miles and miles in the middle of a city essentially. And so, yeah, we really, it all just kind of depends, and it's so hard to compare.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I bet you have 5 different opinions there for sure, but those all sound like really magical and beautiful places. And one more final question on this, and I'm curious, do you think you guys will continue to travel full time? Is that the foreseeable future, or do you have plans to settle somewhere and maybe someplace new since you've seen so many beautiful places?
Yes, we will not travel full time forever. Travel will always be a very important part of our family, and we do hope, well, we are going to go international at some point. We're kind of looking at next winter instead of wintering in the South, going somewhere for the winter because the kids, I feel like, are at a age where we can pack lighter. We don't have to carry all the baby essentials around, and also they can, follow instructions and things a little bit better. So we do plan to always have travel be the essential, the center of our family. But we will be looking at like a little bit of a home base just to kind of always come back to because the kids are getting older. And 5 years of kind of hopping from here to there, we just would like to always have a place to like be our own and to always come back to, spread out a little bit, stretch our legs, and then regroup and go on. So definitely home base in the near future. It'll be, while we love the Midwest, and it'll always be a big part of my life. We have grown very fondly of warmer climates, so it will be somewhere in the South.
Totally get that. I think when you grow up in an environment where it snows a lot and it's cold a lot, oftentimes you're like, okay, I've had enough of that in my lifetime.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know really probably how bad my seasonal depression was. Like the sunshine literally just fuels my soul. And I didn't realize how important that was until we had our first winter south. And I was like, wow, this is like life-giving for me. And I know some
Mhm.
people it everyone's, so different, but we always go back to the Midwest for the summer. And so it'll always obviously be a big part of our life, but our home base will be
Absolutely.
south.
Yeah. Yeah. And my kids who really have not grown up in that type of environment just love to get there in the winter, to see snow and to experience that and wear big, mittens and gloves and scarves and hats and all the things. So it's always what you don't have, I think, sometimes
Right.
too.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Brooke. Well, we're going to move on now to our lightning round where we're just going to ask you some random, just for fun type questions, nothing to do with travel, just to get to know you a little bit more personally. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to change this question up a little bit. I usually ask people, like, what's your get it done song? But, like, what's your road trip playlist sound like?
It's a variety of of literally everything. Country, like my husband loves like old 80s rock, so it really kind of depends on where we're at. I'd say right now, well, we have country concerts coming up, so we are listening to a lot of Zach Bryan, Kenny Chesney, and Zach Brown band right now, taking our kids to some concerts for some experience birthdays this summer.
Cool. Okay. Eclectic. Love it. What a road trip playlist should be. What book are you reading right now?
Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Nice. Yes. I've heard really good things about that book.
hmm
Do you have a guilty pleasure TV show?
I don't watch a lot of TV. No.
I'm not really surprised by that answer. So many other things to see, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you said you don't vacation often, but you're traveling often. So if you could vacation tomorrow anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
We would probably go to like Thailand, simply because we've been learning about the culture and different things. We love the Asian food scene, and so that's kind of on our bucket list, soon bucket list.
Yeah, I have been personally to Thailand, and I can say it is an incredible destination to go to. So I would highly recommend it.
Great to hear.
What if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life? What would it be? Calories don't count.
Um, Probably like chocolate covered almonds because I'm getting my protein, but also the sweet.
Yes, great answer. Absolutely. What if they made a movie about your life? And I feel like they might one day. I mean, you have a very fascinating life. So, who would you want to play you?
Oh my gosh. This is really bad. I don't know because I don't watch a lot of movies and I'm not very good with like actors and actresses. If my husband was answering this, he would be able to spit something out. So
Okay, maybe
I don't
what we'll
know.
do is when we get this up on YouTube, we'll pop the question to
Sure.
people and see what they say. There you go.
Yes.
All right. And finally, what is one app that you cannot live without? And I'm curious, especially with your lifestyle, like how this may be different from someone who's got a more of a home base.
Yeah, I use Dropbox a lot just simply for like photo storage and for business wise, sharing documents and saving documents. So Dropbox is my like go-to app for like business and our travel lifestyle.
Love
Not
it.
exciting.
No, no. I mean, I feel like that's a really practical question. So I love to hear the answers behind it for sure. All right, Brooke. Well, please tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can access all your amazing gear. It's not just beanies anymore, right? There's so much more that you guys offer.
Yeah, we started doing like baseball caps and some graphic apparel, but yeah, kind of beanies is our main thing.
Yeah. And where can they find you and find these products?
Yes, you can shop our products at behappydesigns.com or follow along on our adventures on Facebook or Instagram at b.e happy happe.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brooke, for being here, for sharing all your traveling tips. I know that I learned a ton, and I just really admire the lifestyle and the choices that you made, and that you're executing them and just killing it day in and day out as a mom, as a homeschool teacher, as a businesswoman, as a wife. It's really, really impressive. So thanks for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.